Hi, friends. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Katie, and welcome to Okay, But Did You Know? A podcast where we talk about the TV and media that we love with a friend who's never seen it before.
Tonight we're recapping and chatting about Once Upon a Time, episode 119, The Return. This episode aired on April 22nd, 2012. It was written by Jane Espenson, and it was directed by Paul Edwards. Now, before we get into our general chaos chatting, as it were, let's go into a little bit of a synopsis for the episode. In the Enchanted Forest. Some time has passed since Rumplestiltskin became the Dark One and ended the Ogre's War. Now he's terrorizing the village, all in the name of protection for Balefire. When Bay expresses his desire to have his father back, they make a deal that if Bay can find a way, Rumple will give up his power. Distrustful of the word of the Blue Fairy and too afraid to give up his powers, Rumple lets Balefire go through a portal to a land without magic without him. In regret, he is determined to find a way to reunite with his son, no matter the cost. And in Storybrooke, Mary Margaret is innocent, and now Emma must find out who kidnapped Catherine and why. When it seems all roads will lead back to Regina, Sydney makes a surprise confession, causing Emma to become more determined than ever to fight to take Henry away from Regina. Meanwhile, Mr. Gold is a bit too suspicious of our stranger, and follows him until he discovers what he's after, the Dark One dagger he buried in the woods weeks before. After discovering August's intentions, the two work out a deal. August's life, if he can fulfill his plan to get Emma to remember.
That's a synopsis.
That's not a long one though. It's a meaty one, and to be fair, when I wrote it yesterday, I did try to keep it spoiler free, just in the event you looked at it by accident.
That is fair because I am a procrastinator.
So I did want to keep it like concise, but we got the major points in there. So this was one of the rarities where you were watching it, and I was actually on the phone with you while you were watching, not for any particular reason. Which never happens. We didn't do that on purpose because I like our thoughts to be like fresh for the recordings. Like even if we do text each other, like I don't usually give you too many things or too many topics that I don't want to talk about. So it was fun when you're just like, oh, look what I'm doing, and you turn your phone and like, oh, hi, Ian Bailey.
It's always fun too because every time I do something like that, even if we're texting, it's kind of you get to do this kind of like nana nana boo boo, and I'm just sitting here like give me information, and it's not happening.
No, never. Basically, at this point, I've learned the distinct art of no comment.
Yes, you've become very good at that, or you'll start teasing me.
Or I will start teasing you. Well, like I wrote in my notes multiple times, and I'm looking forward to seeing if you just bring them up by yourself, of places where I think you're going to yell at me.
Well, I mean, starting off with the first note I had was just in all caps. What is wrong with August? What is happening?
Shin splints.
Why? Shin splints.
He's got shin splints. He's got shin splints.
And then my favorite note, though, really just is Regina is big mad.
She is big mad. Her and again another delightful Pinky and the Brain moment with the two of them. I do like. I love him so much, but I do like Rumple's loophole of the agreement was that something tragic should happen to Catherine, and that is word for word what we saw, which works. I feel like with us having seen I use flashback loosely because it was a week before the events of the episode. In the Stable Boy, when they come up with the plan of what's going to happen. And it's very much like he says, should something tragic happen to Mrs. Nolan and Mary Margaret should take the blame, you can plant one of your lovely skeleton keys in her cell, and we all know what happens to people who try to leave Storybrooke. So, like, he upheld his end of the bargain with something tragic happens, and I don't disagree with him that abduction is tragic. However, it still can't be pinned on Mary Margaret anymore.
But, like, a basement. She was kept, like, a basement?
She was kept somewhere.
I was like, whose basement are we in?
We never actually find out exactly where she was held because we just get like his thing of, you know, something tragic should happen. So we know he orchestrated it. And Sydney takes the blame, obviously, at the very end because of whatever reason.
Yeah, I in that moment, I was just kind of like, dude, really? Like, you really?
He really loves Regina. I mean, there's a lot I would do for that woman. Maybe not this.
No, this is. I do. I do a lot of things for love, but I won't do that.
Thank you, Meatloaf.
You're welcome. No, it just felt right.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna guess this had to have been planned ahead of time. I think having Sydney take the blame for this was their ability to write him off because he booked a pilot that got ordered to series. I'm like 90% certain that's why this happened.
Okay, what came first, this or Breaking Bad?
Breaking Bad, I think he was on Breaking Bad before this. I believe the pilot
Because
he
I
booked
would
for this.
laugh so much.
I believe the pilot he booked that caused them to write him off was Revolution. Here's our
Oh, okay.
needing to Google things.
We found it.
That happens once a week, if not twice a week, in every episode. Yeah, he was on Breaking Bad first. His credits
Okay.
for his credits for Breaking Bad are before Once Upon a Time because they only go from 09 to 2011.
Okay.
Yeah, if IMDb is correct in the timing, the pilot he booked was Revolution, which is the sci-fi show that he did with
Ooh.
Elizabeth Mitchell, Billy Burke. It's got a phenomenal cast.
There were so many lines I loved from this
Mm-hmm.
episode.
Yeah.
We're so glad you didn't kill Mrs. Nolan.
We're so glad you didn't kill Mrs. Nolan. Now that is a card.
And then I really loved the clearly a false name. And I just put, you don't say.
You don't say. Well, I mean, yeah. It's an amalgamation of a couple of things.
Yeah.
We've already established that it's not that it's a pseudonym, but we established what it's a reference to.
I just love that I pinpointed that quickly though. Of like, he's an author. That's an author name.
It really is an author name. It's the middle initial for me is the author name.
The other line I have is, we need a new maid.
They do need a new maid. Now, this is what I told you earlier, and I'm like, I don't know why this line tickles me so much. Is after Bay realizes that he went to go kill the maid. She was mute. She couldn't tell anyone. I don't know why that makes me laugh, which says a lot about me. I feel like.
But then I start laughing because then he replies, even mutes can draw a picture.
Yeah, even mutes can draw a picture, which really is. And I think this might be the earliest instance of him kind of using the Dark One voice, like that very like the over the top voice, because we didn't hear it after he became the Dark One in Desperate Souls, and I this is the next flashback to this is not the next flashback to my knowledge. There are other stuff that happens that we'll see over the course of the years in between, but I do think this is the earliest we hear that voice, at least towards Bay,
which was very interesting. Very. I had that moment when I just go, is that a bean?
The magic beans. Welcome to the world of portal jumping, and this is now a phrase that I will begin to use a lot. Here's a phrase. This is a phrase that I used a lot in our in my statistical analysis rewatch. Portals are hard to come by unless the plot dictates otherwise. Like,
no.
they say all the time about how portals, portal jumping is so hard, especially going to the land without magic, which is a world building aspect that I like, and we'll see as the show goes on. It is the land without magic. That does not, however, mean that it is a land where there can't be magic. Like, just because magic isn't inherent to our world, it doesn't mean that you can't still use magical items.
Gotcha.
So I that's something that's a world building aspect that I like, but something that I say a lot about the show is eventually, they say a lot that portals are hard, or portal jumping or moving between worlds is very difficult, unless the plot dictates otherwise. Like, that's really, eventually they got a Deus Ex Machina this shit. So
I love that. I love that though. I loved when Emma sat down with Sydney though and had the bug and everything. I was like, get him, Emma, because I was like, fucking finally.
Yep. Even a blind sheriff cannot ignore what's right in front of her. And honestly, I mean, it's hard to tell because it's crushed. I think it's meant to be the same bug she planted in Regina's office in Fruit of the Poisonous Tree.
No way.
I think it's meant to be the same device.
That would be hilarious.
That one is not a confirmed thing. I'm just looking at like the different crunch pieces. I'm like, that looks a lot like the little tiny like walkie-talkie looking thing.
It looked real. Yeah, it was really small.
That she planted. Yeah, a little tiny thing.
I had other moments when it comes to the whole like Rumplestiltskin thing. Should I go that way with this, or should I go towards David being an idiot?
Let's start with Dark One, and then we can go back into David being an idiot, because I also have plenty of thoughts on David being an idiot in this episode, and he doesn't get any better next week.
So, of course, this episode leads you to believe that this is Rumple's son, and of course, I fell for that.
The big red herring of this episode is that August is actually Balefire, and I fucking love his line of, do I even look like him? Because quite frankly, he looks so much more like young Balefire, in my opinion, than the person he actually is.
That's so funny. Because, well, I had this moment, though, watching it, though, because when he said that, I was like, I was already thinking in my head, I'm like, he is, like, a good foot taller than Rumple, looks nothing like him. Like, how are these two people related?
I don't know. I'm
Moment.
pulling up a picture. I'm pulling up a picture of the kid that plays young Balefire, because I don't think his eyes are blue, and Ian Bailey has very blue eyes.
Oh, very blue eyes. I had that moment of, that's why he had the shovel. I was like,
no, Balefire has Balefire 100% has brown eyes.
They do that a lot though with kids. And
yeah. What were you saying about the shovel?
Remember earlier in the season, I was like, why is he coming out of the woods with a shovel?
Yeah.
Now I know. I remembered that. I was like, that's why he had it.
I wrote in my notes, I can't wait for Katie to put that together. That's what he was burying in the woods in The Heart is a Lonely Hunter.
And then I also had the moment, of course, so that's why he doesn't like fairies.
Rumplestiltskin has multiple reasons to not like fairies.
Multiple?
That being
okay.
Multiple. This being one of them, although I do love that Blue is not willing to, she's unwilling to back down against him.
Oh, I love her.
I love her so much. I forget she exists half the time.
Oh no.
Like just because she's just on the show so infrequently.
Only when you need her.
No, she's the blue fairy. She shows up when you need her to. Again, I stand by having her, there should have been this thing of her really like pulling the evil strings all along. It would have been really cool. They didn't do that, but I think her like just kind of being sassy with him about how there are no more magic beans. You know, he had his one chance and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I think is such a good moment for them.
And then I'm sitting here and I'm like, the whole situation where I'm like, this whole curse, one of the reasons for this whole curse is because he fucked up with his son.
Yes.
That was a moment.
It was a moment. Yeah, I really wish there was more I could say.
But there's not. I
can't. Because, like, to be fair, half of the things that I want to say right now are, like, 4 seasons in the future.
4?
I guess depending on your math, maybe 5.
Oh, no.
Just because, like, they keep adding, like, world building aspects to the Dark Curse, where that came from. I will say, there's still a chain of custody issue from, like, one point to another. But something that is very well steeped in the curse, and I'll give you this little tidbit that it'll come to fruition by the end of the season. Familial and parental love is very heavily woven in the fabric of the curse for a multitude of reasons.
All right.
One of which being, Regina sacrificed her father. Rumple is doing all of this for his son. There are, a multitude of reasons why parental love is woven into this curse, and that will be a thing as we see towards the end of the season. So since we're close enough to the season, I can like drop these little things.
So now is it time for David being an idiot?
Yes, now it can be time for David being an idiot.
David's a fucking idiot.
On multiple occasions, I wrote down, dude, you told her that you thought she killed your wife. Dude, what did you think was gonna happen?
I did love Mary Margaret, right, though, because she flat out, I was just like, damn, Mary Margaret, she did not hold back at all.
No, she didn't. And, like, rightfully so. Like, the very end of it, when he's like, but I love you, and she's like, and that is what makes this all so sad. Like...
Amazing acting.
So good. She's like, you love me, and you did this to me anyway. Like, I stood by you. I, believed everything. I was gonna, no matter what happened, like, I was gonna be by your side. And when you had the chance to, you literally didn't, and you said to my face that you thought I killed your wife. Like, what did you think was gonna happen?
It's like he expected her to just come right on back since she was proven innocent, and that's not what happened.
Exactly. Like, that doesn't change the fact that he was like, can you explain to me why? She's like, it was like, he says like, oh, he lists again all of the evidence, and and she's like, it was a setup and a really good one. And then I wrote, that's not an excuse to fucking tell her that.
Exactly. God, he's such an idiot. How does she end up with him?
How did she end up with him?
Like, I'm just like, he keeps doing stupid shit, and I'm like, I get it, true love, I get it, but Mary Margaret.
Yeah, okay, well, there. So again, I always say David Nolan is not charming. They are two very different characters, and this is something that I will say when the curse does eventually break, and the actors have to consolidate the two characters, because really, charming pre-curse David Nolan, and let's go with David Charming. This is the fastest way of doing this. David Charming, David Charming post the curse breaking are three different characters. Like, really.
Okay, 3? Goodness.
If you think about it, Charming pre-curse, all that, all fairy tale land. David Nolan, all curse memories. David Charming. You have to smush those two together. Are really three different characters. The acting, and I really didn't notice this until I'd watched like the episode where the curse breaks and the episode right after it, right after the other one time.
Mm-hmm.
They do such a good job of, these do feel like completely different characters.
Oh wow.
They do such a good job of like amalgamating all of the different characteristics that really kind of need to be combined, but also because then you've got like David's indecisiveness mixed with Charming's leadership skills.
Oh, that's gonna be interesting.
It's gonna be so cool because Charming kind of almost he's gonna start like questioning himself. He's like about everything, because he used to be really decisive, but then he spent time with this other person's life in his head, and something he says is like, like he wouldn't give up Charming to be David because David hurt the woman he loves. He didn't mean to, but he did.
It's crazy. Because I can't wait to see the acting. I cannot wait to see all the acting when because if you think about that, it's pretty much all the characters. They've got their pre-curse, this other person they now are, and then everything that's going to happen after it. And I'm just like, I cannot wait to see that acting.
Well, even Regina, honestly, she doesn't have quite the distinctive shift of pre-curse, curse memories, and such. She, as her character grows, who she is in Storybrooke is not who she was in the Enchanted Forest. No matter what anyone wants to say, she may have all her memories. She's still a different person.
Yeah.
Even because, like, really, since Henry, she's a completely different person. Like, not completely, but since Henry, she's a different person. And then post everything happening, she now has to consolidate what she's done with who she's become and who she wants to be. And like, they all do such a good job with it. Some of them do cling to certain aspects more than others.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to watch it happen on screen.
So, seeing that Regina was able to convince Sydney to take the blame, and I get it, like you said, they were writing him out.
Yeah.
So and ending everything off though with taking back her son.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the introduction to that scene of like when Emma just goes, well, that's the biggest load of crap I've ever heard, and she goes, I'm pretty sure that's not true. Like, ma'am, just please act like you're not winning for 3 seconds. But just for 3 seconds. But and again, my last note on this entire episode is, Emma, you have no legal standing, but okay. Like, none.
Yeah, none.
She may be his birth mother, but she asked for a closed adoption, so the fact that she knows of his location doesn't do much for her right now, as well as the fact of she really has no evidence that Regina is behind everything. So like her thing of Regina trying to frame Mary Margaret, she's got literally no evidence to back this up, so it wouldn't do anything. But this was what was kind of teased, or like from the writers throughout the season, was that the Rumple's line from the pilot, of get the child to safety, and on its 28th birthday the child will return, the child will find you, and the final battle will begin. So the teaser was that the final battle could be anything. It could be a custody battle. That's what they've been saying. So that's where she's coming with this. But like, I'm not a parent, but I coming from the perspective of taking the child back as revenge, maybe not the best reasons.
Yeah, that's not a good reason in the slightest.
No. So that's my thing with that. Like, Emma coming in hot at the end, I'm like, it's cool. It's a great, like, I love kind of like they're almost like their film noir standoffs that they have in the darkened hallways of the sheriff's station. But Maybe we think before we threaten to take children away.
Oh yeah, but
Just a tiny bit.
I think that's all my notes though.
Yeah.
I was really mad he let go of his son though. I was.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things like if he hadn't let him go, obviously there'd be no story. It's like I can be mad at him. So like, there's no story if that doesn't happen.
That's true.
So I do have a question for you.
Oh.
Um, I do because I told you this before. I
Oh
said
yeah.
because we have the red herring of August being Bay. He is not, and to be fair, his identity will be revealed next week. So I did tell you if you can figure out who he actually is, I will confirm whether you're right or not. So do you have any idea based off of the hints we've gotten? I can give you one more clue before you guess.
Okay, give me one more clue because I was just gonna have a funny guess for fun.
Okay. So when Rumpelstiltskin, or when Gold goes in and breaks into his hotel room, he moves some things around on the desk. One of the things he moves around is a wooden donkey.
I should not have gone Shrek. Why did my brain say Shrek?
No, August is not Shrek.
Okay, a donkey. A donkey. Oh. I don't know my fairy tales as good as you do. Wait, is he Pinocchio?
August is Pinocchio.
You know what's funny? Pinocchio was my
Uh huh.
original guess.
Oh, really?
I was like, what character can I think of that's like not fully healthy and
Mm-hmm.
you know, another boy possibly that
Yeah.
from you know, like these fairy tales, and I was like, you know what, Pinocchio would be funny. I just thought it would be funny. Didn't know I'd be right.
Yeah.
Fucking Pinocchio.
It makes sense. Again, this will be revealed next week, anyways.
It's not a spoiler.
It's not really a spoiler, and because I believe the opening scene is Pinocchio and Geppetto and the whale, I believe. So like at that point, we're like, oh, okay. It takes all of like 30 seconds to put that together. Because it's not a big reveal. It's
Okay.
that's a thing of the next episode. So I'm like, if you can figure it out by now, I will confirm it. Because I always say there are certain points. If you can figure things out by certain points, I'm willing to confirm them because at some point there is enough information, even if it is before the quote unquote reveal.
I'm just so mad that I was just in my kitchen, like, all right, I got to think about this. And I literally did was like, Pinocchio would be funny. I'm just going to guess Pinocchio for fun. And okay,
August is Pinocchio.
maybe I just, like, maybe I just knew. I,
Yeah, maybe you knew you internalized enough of the things. Well, because when you after you made the Shrek joke, my first thing I was gonna say before you said is he Pinocchio was don't focus so much on this. I mean, the donkey is also pertinent, but like don't focus on the shape. Focus on the fact that it's wooden.
mm-hmm. I,
That's what I would have said.
hey, look,
But
Shrek would have been funny.
Shrek would have been hilarious. Shrek is also DreamWorks, not Disney.
I know, but still. You said donkey. That's where my brain went.
I know. But speaking of Pinocchio, because I mean this works out, we have the Blue Fairy. You know,
Oh, true.
so she's like everything else. She's kind of perennial. She's on the show the entire time. She's on the show the entire time, not tied to any particular story. Because while she's the lead fairy, we see her a lot. What I read from the one of my fun facts from the wiki was that for the scene where she meets Bay in the forest. Apparently, this may not happen as often. I don't know. I'm gonna assume in the night forest scenes they don't make people do this, but maybe she wanted to for the sake of the child actor. I don't know. Apparently, Keegan Connor Tracy was on set that day. And Mike, I think when they do like the stuff with the blue fairy flying around, they basically just probably have like a tennis ball and a string, so
Mm-hmm.
you have an eye line to look at. And they can edit that out later, but she was on set that day, crouching in the bushes off camera, reading her lines so that he would have someone to act off of.
Oh, that's sweet.
That's really cute. It's nice, like to give the kid actor or the child actor a little bit more to work off of. Something Gold says in the beginning of the episode, that he's only broken one deal in his life, and this wasn't it. By my count, he's broken at least two, if not three, over the course of the show. By that point, all had happened because he's referencing this one in this episode where the deal has been struck, where
Mm-hmm.
if Bay can find a way to get rid of his powers, he'll do it no matter what, and obviously he doesn't because he's too cowardly. And I stand in my thing of it's more of like it's the addict behavior kind of coming back around when it comes to these kinds of things. But there's one literally where like the deal is the thing he wants in exchange for the other people's lives. That's all they want. They just want to be gone, be free, him not try and find them.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end of the episode, not only does he not get the thing he wants, but he's also killed one of them.
Oh my god.
Like, that is the definition of a broken deal, my dude.
Very much so.
Like, and he broke it first. He killed first and then didn't get the thing he wanted. So, like, I mean, I know this is written before all of that, but, like, I think he says that I've only broken one deal in my life multiple times. Like, over the course of the show. I'm like, you've definitely broken multiple deals. Possibly. One of them makes me sad.
Oh, shush. No, not ready.
It may make you sad. I don't know. It makes me sad for a weird reason. But, I did like, that he also ends that, or like during that conversation with Regina, he says, you can't just turn someone into a snail and step on them. And then in the next scene, that's what we see is what happens with the merchant. Because he's also holding, in that conversation, he's holding Balefire's ball. Like the ball that Bay is playing with in that flashback. That's the ball that's the ball that he's handling in the conversation in Gold's pawn shop.
Oh, okay.
It's these small details, man.
That's sad.
A little bit. He's got a lot of keepsakes from Bay, obviously. And this partially plays into my thing of the Jane Espenson humor of, like, sometimes things are funny for no particular reason. I never quite caught this until this time, which I'm okay with, because this is an episode that I can kind of take or leave. Like, we can get to stats in a little bit, but, like, it's not personally one of my favorites, but it's not one that I would skip. When Gold goes to Dr. Hopper, and for the first, like, he just goes, I say, I don't owe you any rent. He's like, why does everyone always assume I'm here about that? And I'm like, because you're the landlord, you usually are.
Yeah, it gave me a fish odor moment.
Yeah. But when Archie asks him how old his son would be, and he says, let's start with something easier. They kind of put a thing in here. And this is a world building thing that gets tossed around as the show goes on. The portals don't go through time; they only go through space. So we'll see this as the show goes on. The portal Balefire goes through puts him in our world in the 1800s. Because remember, I've said that I'll put this in your timeline, but this happens, everything with Rumple, getting, becoming the Dark One. Yeah. That's happening a couple hundred years before everything else.
I was curious how that was going to work.
Like, he says in his spiel with August, before he knows that it's not actually Bay, about how he crossed time and space. So, I'm sure his understanding is maybe he thinks that the portals go through time as well as space, because how else would he have been able to get to the right time and place to get to have him back? How Rumple gets his powers of foresight is also an interesting thing that they actually show us, because that's not a detail that is inherent to the Dark One. It's not a power that's inherent to the Dark One. The Dark Ones can add on power every time. Like, you have the power of all previous Dark Ones, but the ones before him did not have the power of foresight. But this was a good place, I felt like, for this episode, because something I did think about this the other day, because I said last week, or at some point throughout this podcasting adventure, that the 18th episode tends to be my favorite of a lot of seasons, except for next season, because I think, personally, the reason why I think the 18th episode is usually my favorite is because it's usually a climax of something. It's whatever has been building up for the entirety of the season, or for the entirety of the arc that they're going on. Like, for the season, it was what happened between Snow and Regina. That kind of comes to a head. And then everything that kind of comes after it it's falling action, but also kind of ramping up to the big finale. So everything else is kind of, it's kind of falling action-y. The only difference I would say would be season 2, where I think that big climax happens in 216, not 218. Because I think it's the same plot device, just a little bit earlier, weirdly enough. I think because they had more they wanted to introduce leading into the 3rd season. But I think this is a good place for it, because I think having this any earlier than, or at least for these flashbacks, having this any earlier than before we found out what happened with Regina, it would just be like, not that we don't need this, but it's not the right place for it.
Yeah.
So.
It makes sense.
So what did you rate this one?
I actually gave this 8s across the board.
Okay.
I thought it was a pretty good plot. I was just angry. There's so much of it. Yeah. So I was just kind of like, dude, you just let go of your son. I'm mad. I'm just angry. Yeah. I'm a mother. I can't help it. Character I gave, they're all 8s, but character was more so because I like August's character, but only to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
You can only be cute for so long, in all
Yeah.
honesty. You really, yeah. And it's a
He's
lot
still
of
scruffy.
Rumpelstiltskin. He's still scruffy, but
It is a lot of Rumpelstiltskin.
in personal, just 8. Like,
Mm,
it was good. It wasn't horrible. It
yeah.
wasn't a bad episode. It was a Once Upon a Time episode.
It was a Once Upon a Time episode. It was fine. My score. So you wait. Those totals what 24 for that?
25, 24, yeah, 24.
Yeah. So I gave this a 23 in total. Which again is fine. It's on the. It's. I was looking before, like my most common, like my average right now is 21. That's including a couple of the zeros at the bottom that we haven't gotten to yet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think my most common score right now is a 27. And weirdly enough, they were all like three of them, one right after the other. So this one's fine. It's not a bad one. It's not like a particularly favorite. I have weird numbers though, because it's got an 8 for plot. Because I mean, we're racing toward the end of the plot. Like we're more people remember in Storybrooke, or August knows because he's from the he's from the Enchanted Forest. So we're gonna see where that's coming from. And with the world building of why Rumpel was determined to create a curse, or to get a curse, I should say, to get here is starting to come to fruition. I gave it a 10 for character, honestly, because despite that it is a lot of Rumpelstiltskin, I mean, he doesn't do any growth, but you don't expect him to at this point.
No.
It mostly gets a 10 for character because of Mary Margaret standing up for herself with David.
I like that.
That really, it's you like to see that, because I feel like so often the women characters, when this happens, they are written to just forgive and forget and move on with love and everything. And I do say that their arc is one predominantly of a romance. So for them, this is kind of their Dark Night of the Soul breakup moment. And like, we'll see, stage 4 of their romance in the beginning of the second season, where they kind of start coming back together. And then, as I always say, like, not that their story falls to the wayside, but there's always a central romance in Once Upon a Time. But after mid-season 2, it stops being them, because they're together. They've got other issues. There will
It's
be
true.
another central romance that will be following the same kind of trajectory of the. They do follow like the quote unquote the romancing the beat story structure for the romances fairly well. So I can usually pinpoint certain beats for them. But once Snow and Charming stop being at odds, their story kind of just becomes other stuff. But I gave it a 5 for personal. So despite the 8 and the 10 for plot, it gets a 5 for personal.
That's
because
low.
it's a lot of Rumpelstiltskin. It's a lot of
Rumpelstiltskin.
It's a lot of Rumpelstiltskin making a lot of bad decisions, and just like, dude, you had your chance. You could have gone with your kid, but he left him. He abandoned him. He let him go through a portal. He let him go. And I'm just like, no, I'm good. I don't need this. Like, I always say, Robert Carlyle does a phenomenal job. He's so entertaining to watch. He's so good at what he does. But at the end of the day, I mean, like, it's great writing. It's Jane Espenson. She does a good job with writing his character, and I can see why people would find him sympathetic. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But like, that doesn't mean I have to agree. So I don't.
No, I'm with you. I mean, I took away points because he let go of his son. I'm with you.
Yeah, see, that's the ideology as to why I think the thing that I know is an unpopular opinion in season 2. I think you and I are going to disagree, but I'm unsure if I can convince. I'm like mildly convinced I can convince you to agree with me.
You're like, I'm gonna bring you to the dark side.
But like, because I know where I come from with certain things, but I know that with people that disagree with me, and a lot of people disagree with me about this one thing, I'm well aware that my opinion on this thing, and for anyone that's listening that knows the context, it's about what happens in 204. The Crocodile is the name of that episode.
I wonder what that's about.
I know my opinion is unpopular. I'm well aware my opinion's unpopular. Everyone on TikTok likes to tell me that my opinion is unpopular. A, it's my account. I don't really care. B, I know where my opinion comes from, and yes, it may be biased. It might be. But yeah, I can't imagine anyone could never figure out what the Crocodile is about. No would ever know that one.
Oh,
but
who would know?
No, I mean, some people. I know. Is there a way I can? Oh, okay. So for those who may not have put together what I'm talking about, I'm going to use this one line. It's, I let my misery cloud my judgment. That's all I'm going to say.
That helps me. Not at all.
Not at all. You have no idea
Not
who
at
it
all.
is. But it is someone that has a British accent.
Okay, lots of people
So,
have British accents. You do it half the day.
but none of them are using them on the show except for Rumplestiltskin right now. To be fair, have you met
Oh,
anyone that maintains their British accent? Because I guess
mm-mm.
no, because technically, now I'm just using the voice now. Technically, Jamie Dornan is Irish.
Mm-hmm.
He and I mean Rumpelstiltskin. I mean he's Scottish, but he also uses a very muddled accent anyway. Because the very heavy Scottish, I think I don't think they thought fit very well for Mr. Gold. Kind of fits for Rumple a little bit. I'm still, to be fair, I'm like, this isn't my normal. I feel like I'm much higher pitched with the voice
This is
today.
higher pitch than
So I
usual.
think I'm still kind of doing the impression of the character a little bit. I think I kind of got stuck
That
in that
pitch.
register, that pitch, that register. It's fun. But yeah, so yeah, I let my misery cloud my judgment. She says another line that's hilarious that I cannot tell you because it spoils half of the show. It's
We'll get
quite
there.
literally it's quite literally my favorite line of the entire show because when we did our introducing the podcasters when the show launched, I had to pick a different quote than my actual one because I
Oh,
needed one that would make sense out of context that wouldn't spoil anything. But yeah, so that's where true love is magic, but
mm-hmm.
not just any magic, the most powerful magic of all. It creates happiness. That's where that came from. So I'm just gonna keep the voice the rest of the episode. So enjoy this because I to be fair, the rest of the episode is one fun fact unless we keep talking. So
That's fair. What's your last fun fact?
so my last fun fact, this is how you know that I didn't have a whole lot of fun facts when I dig into the international title translations.
Oh, goodness.
That's what, with the exception of Skin Deep, like that's what I go on when I have nothing else. So I looked up a lot of them. Most of them did translate to the Return, which I always mess up the Return and the Stranger because in my mind they're kind of interchangeable, even though like
Mm-hmm.
two big things for two very different reasons happen in these episodes. I always flip the titles. But however, Finnish was the only one that was like different. And that one translated to the father and his son,
That's
which
interesting.
it works. It works for the episode. So, cause like this one is like I would say it's kind of like a prodigal son joke, but not really, because instead of coming home, he just leaves.
Yeah. That was a good job.
Yeah,
You and that accent.
I've had a lot of practice. People can look forward to hearing me use this voice for the entirety of the episode that we talk about 313 Witch Hunt. I've already promised that I will be using a British accent the entire time for that one.
I'm so excited.
You will get, I mean, on our schedule, you will get to that without stopping for more than I think what I already calculated. I want to say we are, so considering that we record months in advance, even with our breaks, we'll still be pretty a few months in advance. Um, by my last count, we are recording Witch Hunt Labor Day of 2024, which means that that episode will be heard sometime in 2025.
Yeah. We're like 30 episodes ahead of ourselves.
We really are.
Thank you all for listening. Join us next time when we discuss Bob's Burgers Season 3, Episode 13, My Fuzzy Valentine, and Episode 14, L'Independent Woman. Don't forget to like, rate, and follow the podcast wherever you listen so you can be notified every time we publish a new episode. And follow us at OBDYK_pod on Instagram and TikTok.
This has been an episode of Okay, But Did You Know? A TV and media podcast. It was hosted by Lauren and Katie and edited by Lauren.